Welcome back to the lunch table, food for thought. I'm Nico Blitz. Make sure you hit that subscribe button just right down there. We're also on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio app, and also shout out to Track Life Radio, man. Also shout out to Mikey from Pogi LA who hooked me up with this shirt. I was gonna wear a shirt that said Butang Inamo, but I thought that would be like a little bit more inappropriate. Anyways, shout out to my next guest, and shout out to Roslyn too. She said that this was essentially the Justin Bieber of the Philippines, but I will consider him just to be the biggest pop icon of the Philippines. He is the son of Piolo Pascual. He got poppin' when he was 19 years old for his song Dahil Sa Yo. And also, if you guys remember the movie Coco from Disney, he also did his rendition of that too, that Disney asked him to do. He goes by the name of Inigo Pascual. What's poppin', man?
What's up, Kuya? Nico, what's up?
That is so crazy because you're younger than me.
Right,
and it's
right.
crazy to hear like Kuya from somebody else other than my sister.
I get that. I'm the same way, though. Like, every time someone younger calls me Kuya, I'm just like, yo, I'm still young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how old are you again? 21?
I'm 21, yeah.
Oh, so you just started drinking alcohol.
I mean, yeah, in the Philippines, it's been a while, but out here, yeah.
Well, in the
legally.
Philippines.
You start drinking at like 12.
Dude, it was crazy. When I was first out there, I was probably like 13, 14.
Exactly.
My grandmother doesn't know this. She'd probably kill my aunties for this.
Lola.
But yeah, you know, just, it's okay. It's okay. All right, whatever.
Exactly, that's what
I'm just
happens.
going to drink then. But, you know, it was cool because going back to the Philippines for the first time was such a culture shock. And it was amazing to see what my family actually grew up like in terms of like Batangas and also Manila
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
And were you born over there?
I was born in the Philippines, so I lived in the Philippines till I was about 8, and then I moved to the States. I moved to LA. So I've been here I was here for 10 years. I studied from 4th grade all the way to 10th grade. Moved back to the Philippines, tried to pursue a career out there. And 4 years later, I'm back here.
Man,
Yeah.
so a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to move back to the Philippines to try to pursue a career in music, acting?
Yeah, I mean, like growing up, it was always part of something that I always wanted to do. You know, like seeing my dad doing his thing. Just a backgrounder, like for those who don't know, my dad's for the Filipinos watching, my dad's Piolo. He's a actor, singer in the Philippines. And growing up, I feel like I just naturally gravitated towards the entertainment industry. Like I just wanted to be in show business.
Yeah.
And my parents were just against that idea because my dad was doing it. Because, you know, like if he would always tell me he knows how it's like, how you don't really have a private life and you have to kind of do these things for your work. And I kind of never understood why he would always discourage me. Because I felt like, you know, like seeing people wanting pictures of you, people would always like say good things about you. I felt like that was a cool thing, you know what I mean? But
And
I
also
didn't
to see him, it's kind of like, well, if you did it, why can't I
exactly.
do it too?
So I didn't understand it when I was younger, but then when I went to school, people would tell me you should bring your dad, or you're not actually your dad's son. Prove it to us, like bring him to school or something. So I would always get people kind of
Like
asking
egging
me to
you
prove,
on.
asking me to prove that Piolo Pascual is my dad. So as a kid, this was kind of hard on me because, you know, I just wanted to study normally. I was proud of my dad, yes, but I didn't want people to just love me just because of like who my dad was.
Yeah, well, in a sense, have you felt like you've had to live through your dad's shadow?
I mean, you could say that, but I never saw it that way. You know, growing up, I felt like I had a normal family in a way. You know, my parents never made me feel like I had a weird or odd, you know, family situation. As much as possible, they made me feel like, you know, this is a normal setup. Even if my dad has to work, you know, they weren't together. I mean, like my dad and my mom, they weren't together, but I kind of understood that. I never felt like any negative thing going on. Not until, you know, like my teachers would honestly tell me you should bring your dad to school for this event, or else like we won't actually think he's your dad.
What the
You know what I mean? So that kind of that part of my life was kind of just messed up, but I kind of took it positively. You know, I kind of just wanted to do something for myself. And so my parents decided to bring me out here to the States and kind of, you know, experience a normal childhood, kind of live as a normal kid, which is kind of hard. I mean, I had to obviously learn the new environment, kind of.
Well, you had to learn English
exactly
too,
that.
man.
So, and I had to learn it the hard way, but it was a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yeah, because I can only imagine being back home where your dad is this huge actor, right?
Yeah.
Even the kids are probably just like, oh, well, you know, he's different, he's good,
Yeah.
you know, like Inigo can like manage on his own. He doesn't necessarily need friends because every time I've met somebody who's had somebody in the spotlight like that, it's kind of a form of bullying that gets put on them, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like, you know, like my parents deciding on bringing me out here, I feel like that's what kind of shaped me into the person that I am today. it was just kind of tough, having to adjust, having to live away from my dad. That was, one of the hardest things that I had to experience. But then again, like I am the person that I am today because of those decisions that they made before.
So then what was the first thing that you did moving from the Philippines to Los Angeles?
All right, so I was that fob kid, like I was that one kid that like just didn't know how to communicate. So I would just stay quiet. And one of my like ways to make friends was to make fun of myself. I would like try to get them to laugh at stuff that I would do because I didn't know how to communicate. There was a time back in I think 5th or 6th grade, we would have to run laps around the field, and the way we would count it was popsicle sticks. And to get like the favor of the bullies, the big guys, I would run extra laps and give it to them. Like, hey, like I'll be your friend, kind of like buying their friendship in a way. Yeah. But that was just kind of my way to, fit in and kind of be in the environment.
So then, who was like the first friend that you made?
I had this one friend, Gordon. Back in, I feel like I didn't really have a lot of friends. Like I feel like every time I have like this thing, like I only have like one best friend every time I move up every grade. But I feel like, I feel like it was just, I don't even know, like it was just different every time.
Yeah, because I can imagine now leaving home and then coming over here where you have to learn a completely different language and accustom yourself to new friends every single year must have been difficult for you growing up.
Yeah, it was.
Man.
And then having to come back to the Philippines and then having to readjust everything.
So how did you at that time manage to find some sort of peace? Because there's no time in which you can actually just relax.
I feel like that's where music came in. I feel like that's one thing that I could say was my way of expressing just my everything. You know what I mean? I feel like music was something that was never fading. I mean, like all these people would fade. Obviously, my interests in some of these things would fade, but music was just something I could turn to and kind of just do for myself and find happiness in it.
And you would you would find yourself just like in your room, like
doing just covers, like I learned how to play guitar on YouTube. I learned how to play ukulele, piano. So I'm an only child, so I was always like
bro.
Ukulele.
You got to get it right for the Hawaiians watching this shit.
Shout outs to Antonio.
But yeah, that's tight though, because I mean, I find it crazy when everybody who's around like your age range, like 21 and under, like the internet is such an amazing thing because I didn't have that growing up too much. Probably not until I was about like 14, 15. But then you guys have managed to maneuver and utilize the internet to your advantage so well based off just like learning, singing, and like, like learning how to do all sorts of shit. Like, did you end up learning English like through YouTube too?
No, not really. I mean, I feel like being Filipino, we're just kind of used to. I mean, like what we were talking about earlier, we have some Tagalog words that can't be literally translated into Tagalog. We talk in English in the Philippines. I guess it was more the humor that I kind of had a hard time understanding. Like the sarcasm was, I felt like when someone would say, yeah, right, I would take it literally like, oh, yeah, I'm right. You know what I mean? I didn't understand the whole like, yeah, right. So for like the longest time, I would understand yeah, right as like, oh, I guess I'm doing something right.
Well, that's because English is such a complex language,
exactly,
dude. It's so complex. And I remember going back to the Philippines, even the way they perceive English is so different. I remember this one particular moment with my cousin Jonas, right? He was just like, Kuya Nico, let's go that.
Let's go that.
And I kept on looking at him like, let's go that? What? And he was like, oh, not that, there. Let's go there. I was like, oh, let's go there. And you know what I mean? Like the way they perceive English is much different of how like, people who are born in America perceive English because it's so tricky. But every time I'm back in the Philippines, it's like my Tagalog is so bad, dude. Like, it's horrible.
It's better than Roslyn's. I mean, but it's a hard language to learn. I feel like Tagalog, you'd actually have to be speaking it from when you were a kid to actually learn the language. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then even so, I think every district kind of has like their own way of like inflecting the words and whatnot. I think from where my mom's from, like we like to inflect the O's, like caballo.
Where Batangas.
Yeah, like over there, and I'm just like, okay, my dad obviously doesn't talk like that because he's from Manila. But it's crazy because it's the same way how like you can be from Los Angeles and from New York and from the Bay Area and all the different like it's all the same language, just everything's pronounced differently. So anyways, When did you start really wanting to pursue music as a career then?
I guess as a kid, seeing your dad kind of just doing his thing, being on stage, on movies and stuff, it was something that always interested me. It was something that I always wanted to do. Being an only child, I had to find a way to entertain myself. My parents, for some reason, would buy me board games, and I'd always wonder, like, who am I supposed to play these board games with? You know what I mean? Like, my parents would always try to keep me in the house and not go outside and play with the other kids.
Why is that?
Huh?
Why is that?
I don't know. Like, I guess trying to keep me safe, I would still run away. Like, I'd get my mom to sleep, and then I'd just, like, sneak out and play with the other kids. But I didn't understand why they bought me board games. I was like, am I supposed to learn how to play by myself? Oh, it's your turn.
So what are we doing? Were you just
turn.
playing like Uno by yourself?
Yeah. I still have the board games, and I didn't understand it. So I guess that's when I turned into music. I kind of had to learn how to, entertain myself. And I guess the first instrument was piano. My Lolo bought me one of my first pianos. And when shout out to my Lolo, he's right here. It was just something that interests me, it was something that I enjoyed learning on my own.
Yeah.
And I guess one of those like pivotal moments when I really wanted to be a musician was when I was in first grade, and there was a singing competition at school. My mom never knew I was into music. I think I like to play the piano and stuff. When I saw the poster that said singing competition, elementary students, I was like, yo, I gotta join this competition. Yeah. But I didn't know how to sing. I just wanted to join the competition because it's music. So I was like, all right, I'll sign myself up. I was like, Mom, I got a singing competition at school this one day. They're like, you don't even sing. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, no, I do sing, Mom. I got this. And so I got on stage. I performed. I was super confident. Like, I don't remember, but my mom was saying I was super confident. I acted like I knew what I was doing, but then I started singing, and she was like, yeah, we got to put you through singing lessons.
It's like, you kind of just embarrassed yourself.
Yeah, so that's when it started. That's when she put me through singing lessons. I started doing Center for Pop in the Philippines, and I did that for about 2 years. And then I guess my love for music just kept growing through the years. I went to school here in the States, and music was something I hid from my school. Because it was like something, it wasn't something cool. It was like the time when Bieber was getting big, and like these kids just didn't like the idea of boys singing. It was just kind of like, oh, like you got to play sports, you know what I mean? It was something that I couldn't really relate with to anyone. No one else liked music as much as I did. Mm-hmm. And it was not until I was in middle school, back in 7th grade, when one of my friends from the football team, the soccer team, he was trying to encourage me to join the choir. I was like, no, I'm not gonna wear like a gown and like sing. Like, no, that's not what we do in choir. Like, we sing actual pop songs. We sing like normal songs.
Oh, that's tight.
So they had me try out, and I just fell in love with it. I learned how to use my ears. I learned how to harmonize. I learned how to, I learned how to read notes and all these things that I didn't know about music before. And my uncle, my mom's brother, Drake, bought me my first guitar from Toys R Us, the first act.
Oh, damn.
The small ones, like not even like legit guitars.
Yeah.
And when I got my guitar, I was like, yo, this is like my love for piano was like, I got to learn this on my own. So I went on YouTube. I started learning chords. I would see like where you're supposed to position your fingers and just like how you strum. And I would do this like from the time that I would wake up till like I have to sleep. I would just be holding my guitar and just trying to figure out how to play it. And the same thing happened with the ukulele. I still remember the people that bought me like my first instruments. Tita DJ, my mom's best friend, she bought me my first ukulele. And the exact same thing happened. I just fell in love with it, and I would write songs. And I felt like over time I kind of gained more confidence in myself, and I would share it to people. And like family events, Filipino, if you're Filipino, I'm sure you know this. When you go to family events, even if you don't sing, you will have to sing. They're like,
You'll have to sing,
my son, he knows how to sing. You sing yung song na yun. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I've always been put in the situation wherein I have to sing because you're Filipino and everyone has to hear you sing.
Every Filipino household has a karaoke mic. Exactly.
So
and the magic mic, magic mic. Yeah.
Exactly that. So I was always in that position wherein I had to put myself out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if this happened to you, but then would they like end up sliding you money every time?
Yeah, my Lolo. I was that guy. I was like, no, come on, you have to do this. They're waiting for you. Yeah. They came all the way from Oxnard just to see you. Just like, no, they didn't. They just want to see us. why do I have to sing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and there's times when I really don't want to, and I would throw a fit, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
So you know, it was something that I feel like being Filipino, you're just kind of like joke I said, but be a nurse. You know what I mean? Like,
well, see, that's the crazy thing is that whenever we get together at these like Filipino family functions, right? There's always a cousin who could sing. There's a cousin who could play guitar, ukulele, whatever. Like a cousin who's like super talented in some sort of like field of music. But when the time comes to actually pursue a career, it's like, okay, we're going to go to high school. We're going to go to college. All right, the knock, you're going to be a nurse. You're going to be a lawyer. And it's crazy because I don't know why, like us as Filipinos, we're so creative. But then by the time we get to the real world, sometimes our parents or our family members are just quick to be like, the creative shit is cute, but you got to go make some money.
Right. And no, I mean, you got to understand them as well because they had it the hard way back in the Philippines. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same, you know, same setup that we have where we're able to do these things freely. And, you know, I understand that. But I guess it's just how it is. You know, we got to learn to teach them that we have to do what we love to do.
Yeah. Why is it now that, I mean, I don't even want to say just Filipinos, but that like Asian Americans and Asians in general are now coming into the world and being like, hey, we can be musicians too. We can be entertainers too.
I think it's because, I mean, as a Filipino that grew up in was born in the Philippines and was able to kind of experience how it is out here, I feel like we always like kind of gravitate towards foreign sounds or trying to imitate what this other country has done. You know what I mean? I feel like there's so many young kids growing up nowadays and kind of realizing that and kind of, you know, they're choosing to make their own content, trying to, I guess, make their own mark, if that makes sense. You know, trying to say that we got it too. Like, we don't have to imitate anything. Like, if you guys can do it, we can do it as well. And I guess with the rise of the whole K-pop movement, you know, the whole Korean movement, I feel like a lot of these other Asian, Southeast Asian, whatever, like countries are kind of realizing that, oh, they're able to do it. And they're not even singing in English.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like as Filipinos, we're known to be singers, but why don't we have any original content out there?
Exactly. I remember when I was back there 10 years ago, it was the same year that Michael Jackson had passed away, right? And so I see all my cousins moonwalking. They're doing like crotch grabs. Even my female cousins are doing crotch grabs. I'm like, okay, whatever. But it's crazy because I really look back at that moment, and then there were only artists like who weren't even big. There was like, I think Glock 9. He was like this rapper from the Philippines, and there was also this like group called like MYMP or something. You know what I mean? Like there were they're like very acoustic stuff, but then there wasn't anybody who was like of that stature who was like a Michael Jackson like from the Philippines at that time that I was aware of, right? So what I'm thinking happened was that we get somebody like a Bruno Mars who looks Filipino, isn't 100% Filipino, then all of us are just so quick to be like, oh, he's Filipino.
Like claiming it all of a sudden.
And then, you know, now we have people like her and like Saweetie who don't even say they're Filipino, but then like I'm slowly seeing glimpses of Filipinos just popping up everywhere. And for me, it's kind of like, oh, well, shit, well, if they can do it, then I could kind of do it too.
Exactly. I feel like what we need is just a whole movement of people just coming together, and instead of pulling each other down and kind of, you know, racing to the top and having to drag people down just to do that, I feel like we got to just do it all together and come together as one. And, you know, there's no like specific plan or there's no specific way to do it. But I guess what we're doing right now is just trying to figure out how we can do that and really meeting the people and trying to, I guess, educate the people on how we could do it together. Because, I mean, there's no blueprint for all of this.
Yeah, there's no blueprint for anything. And I think I've been trying to map out what the blueprint can be from the past couple of months because, you know, for instance, the guy who made this shirt, shout out Mikey, his brand is called Bogey LA.
I like that.
I remember this one moment where my dad was just like, hey, whenever you post, just hashtag Filipino. Pinoy.
Hashtag Pinoy.
You know, like, you know, hashtag all that shit because it matters. And I'm just like, okay, Dad, whatever. But then that's how I end up finding Mikey. That's how I end up finding Roslyn. That's how I end up finding even like a heavy rotation out in like San Diego. And then I'm over here thinking like, you know, all of us are active. All of us are here. We just don't know that we exist.
Right. Exactly.
And it's not necessarily a problem. It's just that like we just need to like keep on finding each other and keep on bridging that gap.
Exactly that. And I feel like that's what we're doing out here. You know, I feel like the fact that we're trying to cross over, trying to bring more Filipinos here in the States, I feel like it's not us trying to be, like everybody else out here. I feel like it's just us trying to reach out to the Filipinos already here, who are proud of their heritage. To be honest, every time I see Filipinos out here in the States, it makes me kind of feel more patriotic in a way, because I feel that they long to feel the Filipino presence, you know, and they love being surrounded by Filipinos, and they're always like, you know, like Filipino pride, Pinoy pride. Oh, that guy's Filipino.
Yeah.
He's my cousin. You know, like everyone's your cousin if you're a Filipino. Yeah. So I feel like being out here kind of gives you that sense of just patriotism. Is that a word?
Patriotic.
Patriotic. Yeah, there you go. But that's what we need to do. We just need to educate and kind of just come together and, I guess, just do it.
But there's also this battle that I've noticed where something is too Filipino that it kind of turns off the millennials, right? Like, believe me, when I was young, I was doing tinikling, like, you know what I mean? I had a lot of like older people in my life who had like the Filipino, like the star and the sun and everything, and I'm just like, oh my god, dude, like this is the most Filipino you can get, right? But unfortunately, like since we're millennials, I think you're like millennial / Gen Z almost.
I'm like in between.
You're like you're like damn near in between. But it's like when we see stuff like that, it's kind of just like, yo, you're a little bit too cultural. Like, how do I guess my question is like, how do we find that balance between bringing our roots to the millennial and like the younger cultures?
Yeah, and that's a question I also like, you know, I would ask myself that same question, because I'm the same way. I would get turned off by things that are too cultural or too Filipino, because like as an outsider, as a foreigner, you would not, you know, like, why would I be interested in this, you know, this culture if I'm not even part of that culture? And that's why we're trying to immerse ourselves within the community. I mean, I always say this, but you know, that's why we're out here trying to learn what these people like. That's why we're trying to connect. And as much as we're trying to share about our food, about our music, we're also trying to learn about them. We're also trying to learn what they like to do, how their family works. And I feel like being in the States is perfect, because it's just a melting pot of different cultures, different races. And I feel like especially now, people are more open to, you know, kind of learning about each other's differences. Yeah.
And so, whoa, I totally just lost the question that I was going to ask. But so when you are, whoa, I hella lost the question. It was literally right there. So yeah, it was a good one. So that's why I want to figure out what it is again. So let me just ask you this while I also think of the question. Right. So then
commercial question, right?
Yeah.
Here.
So then, what's your favorite Filipino food?
Totally off topic right here. While you think of it, favorite Filipino food, I like tapsilog. I like my Filipino breakfast food. You know, tosilog, anything breakfast is good.
Anything
yeah, I like tapsilog.
You get down with sisig?
I love sisig, man. Sisig's so good. I tried out. Shout outs to Mike of what's that food called? Shoot. Lumpia Company. Alex. I'm so sorry. I met so many Mikes today. No, I just yeah.
Wait, there's spaghetti and cheeseburger lumpia?
Yeah. So there's like bacon, cheeseburger, lumpia. Dude, this guy...
See?
Wait, you know who's the investor?
No.
E40.
E40? Oh, man. Shout out to the Bay.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So then that actually brings it back to my point and the question that I was trying to get to. See? I knew I could get to it. But... Even in situations like that where you make lumpia, which, you know, culturally just has like pork in it.
Yeah.
You can have cheeseburger in it. You can have spaghetti.
You gotta mix it up,
and that kind of just shows like, oh, well,
it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
See, exactly that. So perfect example right there. You can make cheeseburger lumpia, which is American and Filipino.
Yeah.
And I just feel like here in America we're just so diverse. You know what I mean? And in the Philippines, we always, you know, I feel like it's kind of sad, but I feel like we always just want to be everything we hear from outside.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what saddens me the most is that being in the Philippines, all of my cousins they looked at me like I was a fucking god.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over here just like, you know, I'm just doing like some regular shit. I'm over here, right? And so when we look at people from America and we look at all these like icons who are like K-pop and whatnot, it's like, instead of being more like a Filipino, we try to be more like them,
like
the
everybody
other.
else.
And this is the point that I was going to bring up right before I brought up the food, was that I feel like it's all coming back now, but it's like, I feel like you're the prime example of what being Filipino is for like a millennial or for like the younger generation, because you moving from the Philippines to here, I'm listening to your music and I'm over here like, yo, I can't even tell that he's Filipino. He just sounds like somebody who is singing American, music with like American words. And I think once you get over that idea that, or once you get over like, let's say even an accent, right? Or even just being like too Filipino, people are going to be looking at you like, oh, I didn't realize Inigo was Filipino. That's going to make them feel more accustomed to be like, oh, well, yeah, now somebody in like the millennial or Gen Z generation can do what Inigo is doing.
And that's what we want to do. We want to encourage everybody, like putting differences aside. Doesn't matter what race you are. The thing is, it's a good point that you also pointed out that, that was redundant. It's a good point that you pointed out. It's good that you pointed out that, you can't be too cultural, because you don't want people feeling like they don't know what you're talking about. You got to relate and kind of, I guess the way you tap into a certain audience is relating to them and not making them feel different from what you do. And I guess that's what I learned also from being here in the States. Having all these differences. I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic, white, all these races, and I feel like meeting them, I'm able to see our differences, but also the things that we are in common of. Does that make sense? Is that right? The things that we have in common.
You see your commonalities and your differences as well. So I want to say, aside from like pop music, right? Who are some artists that you listen to that you gain influence?
Pop?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up listening to a lot of Chris Brown, but I do listen to like everything. Like the first few songs that I sang were Maroon 5 songs, so that kind of stuff. There was a time I was into country music, like Hunter Hayes, all those like country songs.
Lil Nas X.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, mixing country and hip hop.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I listen to a lot of music. I listen to a lot of Tagalog songs. Garnerving, Gary Valenciano, and I like all types of music. I don't judge. Like what I said yesterday when we were presenting my music. Some people might like it, some people might not. Some people have their own genre. I have my own genre, but I gotta be proud of what I listen to and what I create. Yeah,
of course, because everything that you listen to and everything that you consume it's just a little piece of you.
Exactly.
That you end up taking onto your music.
Yeah.
And when I was listening to your music, I was like, okay, I can't really pinpoint any particular influences. I just know this will work both in the Philippines because of who you are, and for what the sound is, it'll work dope on the pop stations out here.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, man, of course.
Thank you.
I just got to give credit where credit's due, Speaking of which, man, I was on YouTube, on your YouTube, and I was finding like a slew of people who you were working with. One of them being like AJ Raphael.
Yes.
And growing up, AJ Raphael was literally one of the only Filipinos who were just like active, and I'm just like, yo.
Yeah.
How did you end up linking with him?
Roz. So Roz made it happen. So man, I told this guy when I first met him at Moira's concert, I was just like, yo, like you don't even understand, like you're like an icon to me, like you're like my childhood, like Jesus. I'm not to say that, but not to say that. I love
man,
AJ.
it's already set in stone.
I didn't mean to use Jesus' name in vain. AJ was like the only Filipino, not even just being Filipino, but he was one of those YouTube stars that I was like, I could do it. If he can do it, if he's able to put out those music, I can do that too in the future. And that's why I also wanted to learn guitar. There's a lot of people that I grew up listening to that kind of, influenced me and kind of gave me the motivation to work on myself so that I'm able to do it in the future, and to be able to collaborate with someone that did that to you and had that effect on you. Man, that was big for me. I mean, AJ Raphael, I would tell every time I see him, I'm like, Kuya, I can't even believe I'm talking to you right now. Like, I used to watch you on my computer.
That's
like,
crazy.
And like here, like after a few years later, here I am talking to you and we're singing. I was like, this is wild. Yeah.
Has he put you up on like any game on how to maneuver through the music industry? Or just how to even maneuver?
He's very supportive. He's always asking me what's going on, like what kind of music I'm making. Every time I link up with some of the people that he knows, he's like, oh, tell him I say what's up. And he's just a kuya. But no, we haven't gotten to really talk about how I should, do my stuff in the music industry. But, hopefully in the future we're able to do that. But he's really busy right now with the whole theater stuff that he's doing.
Oh, of course, man. Of course. How did you end up linking with... And my girlfriend actually put me up on this guy too, Alex Iono.
It was Roslyn.
Dude, Roslyn, can we
She's
just
just
do a
making everything
podcast
happen,
with
right?
you two? Like, I don't even want to ask about anybody else anymore.
See, that's the same thing with Alex. Like I'm a big fan of Alex's covers, and there was a time in the Philippines wherein he had a show in Pampanga, which is like 2 hours away from
That's hella
Manila,
far.
and I just came from the airport because I had an event, and I was like, I have to see this. From the airport, I drove 2 hours just to see Alex's show in Pampanga, and I got there just in time. I met him backstage. I was like, I couldn't even talk. I was like, hey, what's up? I'm Inigo. I like your music. Like when you're kind of just nervous about meeting one of your like idols.
Jesus.
Pretty much. I love Jesus. And then the next day I saw him at mixtaping. I visited him. I thought there were gonna be a lot of people visiting. Turned out I was the only one who visited, and it kind of felt awkward because like they're like, oh, go take a picture with him. I was like, all right. And then a few weeks later, I interviewed him on ASAP, and then I go to America, and Ross is like, you're gonna make a cover with Alex. I was like, shut up, like, no,
Damn.
we're not doing this. Like, that's not actually gonna happen, right? And we get in the studio. Alex is like, yo, yeah, man, I remember you. I was like, yo, he remembers me. This is crazy.
Damn, that's cool.
And so we made the cover, and he was surprised because I even knew the Spanish part of the song. Like, that's how much I would listen to his covers.
Damn.
And the fact that we were able to do that, I was blown away with the powers of, Ms. Roslyn over here.
We got to get Roslyn on camera.
And even Leroy Sanchez, he's another guy, one of those dudes that kind of influenced me to create music. Yeah.
You must be in a good space knowing that you're currently working, and you've also worked with people who you've been watching on like the other side of the screen for years, man. Because not that many people get to have that type of experience. Do you feel like you're put in like a position to really win?
I feel like everyone should have that mindset. I don't want to sound like I'm full of myself and say that I am that person, but I feel like I'm in that position where I just need to grab every opportunity that's given, because not everyone is given that opportunity. You know what I mean? And I want to treasure everything that I've been honestly been doing. It's all a blessing. The people that I've been meeting, it's crazy because these are things that I would just imagine before. These are things I would just kind of visualize in my head, and now they're all just happening slowly. I'm meeting, all these people that I used to watch on TV, and I'm guesting on radio stations that I used to just listen to growing up. I'm here in the TFC building, and I'm like, this is like the person on TV I used to watch doing the news, and I'm here like being interviewed by her. You know what I mean? So it's all crazy.
Yeah.
Like I honestly don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, well, I actually had this guest on the show. His name's Amaze301, and he was talking about how what prevents us from doing even bigger things is the fact that we end up stop dreaming, right? So when we're kids, we think about the craziest things, and we're constantly like taking in content like, oh, I'm watching Alex Iono, or I'm watching AJ Raphael. It would be really cool to like meet them one day.
Right.
Next thing you know, your dream becomes a reality, and then you start making music with them. Now that you're in this position where you've met these people and you've worked with these people, what will prohibit you from doing even bigger things is if you stop dreaming.
Exactly that. When you feel like you've reached a certain point where, all right, I'm okay. But I feel like that's where gratitude comes in. You got to be thankful for the moments that are given to you. And sometimes when you feel like your current situation is already enough, I feel like that's when you kind of just stay there and kind of plateau in a way. You just feel like you can't do anything else, and that's when you get stuck. And for a time, I'm gonna be honest, I went through that, with my song Dahil Sa Yo. It was my first single, first ever release off of my first album.
Shit,
and
it's at 93 mil on
that
YouTube
thing just
right
blew
now.
up like crazy, and I did not expect it. And I was at a point wherein I had all these opportunities. Disney Asia wanted to work with me. I literally had like 5 songs at the time when I was promoting that song, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm tired as heck, but I'm still thankful, But I feel like, where am I supposed to go after Dahil Sa Yo? And there was a time wherein I was like, what am I supposed to do? I started questioning. I stopped, like what you said, I stopped dreaming, and I was kind of thinking of what is the next step? What is the next strategic step? And it kind of became more like a business plan in my head rather than a dream. And I went through that phase, and it was a very hard point in my life wherein I had to kind of allow myself to feel it, and I had to really allow myself to feel, I don't want to be dramatic, but broken. I felt like I didn't know where to go after that song. Like for 3 years, almost 2 years, I was promoting that song, and I just felt like, what am I supposed to release after this song? You know, like,
Yeah.
am I gonna be stuck as this kid who just made a one hit song and be known as that one kid that made a, you know, that's a one hit wonder, and that thought just wouldn't leave me, and I guess I just had to realize that and allow myself to kind of hit that point by myself, you know, and I didn't have to tell it to anyone, but I allowed myself to hit that point because once you hit that point, that's when you are able to pick yourself up. Because I feel like the more you try to pick yourself up and struggle to kind of, you know, find the way, I feel like that's when you don't find the way. I feel like when you allow yourself to feel broken, that's when you realize, oh, these are the things I need to do. You know what I mean? And that's when I kind of, I don't mean to go all like I know what I'm doing, but, you know, I feel like that's when I kind of realized I have to work on myself and not try to force things the way I envision it to be, the way I would imagine it to be, and kind of just, you know, there was a time, I don't know how to, I'm like trying to put it all together. There was a time wherein I wanted to leave, how do I say this? I wanted to leave, how do I say this and not sound bad? I wanted to leave the position that I was in. You know, I was like, I could probably make my music on my own. There was a time I wanted to do that. I was like, I could probably do this on my own. And I just felt like I wasn't, you know, I wasn't given what I wanted to do. And that thing was the thing that broke me. That thing kind of made me feel lonely in a way, because I felt like I wasn't being treated the way I wanted to be treated. But I was still thankful, you know, that thing never left me. There was never a point in my life where I wasn't thankful for all this stuff that I was given. And like what I said, you have to go through those things. You have to allow yourself to go through that, because if you get stuck in the position where you're fighting for what you want, that's when you don't get what you want. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I don't know if
it makes sense because you have to understand where you are before you know where you're going to be going.
Exactly.
And if you just keep on climbing out of a hole and not even realize you're not even in a hole.
Exactly that. No, that's a good one. Some quotable quotes from Kuya Nico right here.
Man. Ang galing. How do you say shovel in Tagalog?
Pala.
Pala? Yeah, pala. Pala. Shout out Lolo for the knowledge, man. No, but, you know, you make a really good point, man, because, I mean, I don't even know how to expand on that. It was just a really good point.
Thank you.
You know, thank you for that, bro. For real. So now that you're in this position of which you recognize where you are and where you're moving, what are like the now bigger dreams that you are envisioning for yourself?
Every day, honestly, is a dream come true. You know, being able to guest on these things that I used to just listen to. Yesterday, we were doing some guestings that, as a teenager here in America, I used to read about on social media, and it's crazy. I feel like you gotta just keep dreaming big and staying thankful. You know, I was out. You know, growing up, I was like into like the whole Justin Bieber movement. I supported that because I was that kid that wanted to be that guy. And I wanted to be releasing music at a young age. And the fact that I was working in a studio where Justin Bieber was making his album, Black Star, with Justin Bieber's musical director, Justin Bieber's producer for his upcoming album, I was just like, this is crazy. And I saw Pooh Bear, who just walked into the studio, and he was just like, happy birthday. I was like,
Thanks.
I literally said, thank you. I thought it was my birthday. Like, I lost myself for a minute. I was like, I guess it's my birthday. But yeah, like little things like that. Sometimes when you feel like you've reached it, you forget that these are things you used to just dream of. Mm-hmm. And that's when you just have to realize that it's happening for you. And you got to stay thankful. You got to stay grounded and not think that these are normal things. I mean, you got to be appreciative of what you have, but you got to realize that these are things that you've been dreaming of, so that you learn to appreciate it more on a deeper level. Yeah.
Wow. Inigo Pascual, everybody. Can we just clap it up one time? Extremely deep. We covered a lot of ground in this conversation.
We did.
But yeah.
What? All right, my dream.
Put it out to the
my
universe,
dream is
man.
To get the Tagalog on the Grammys, bro. I mean, there's Spanish songs on the Grammys. We got to do that. We got to make it happen.
Man, we will make it happen together. Rosalind especially.
She'll perform. She'll have her own solo spot.
I'm ready to dance.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's make sure we get Filipinos in Tagalog in the Grammys, man. Inigo, where can everybody find you?
Follow me on Instagram at Inigo Pascual, on Twitter at Inigo D Pascual, and on Facebook, just look for my name with a check mark on it. And on YouTube, I'll be posting a bunch of videos soon. It's at I'm Inigo Pascual. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem, man. And let me just say this. Shout out to my parents who finally know somebody that I'm interviewing. It was just crazy when I told them about you, and they're like, "Oh no, you're joking." It's like, nah, this is who I'm interviewing. Oh my God, share this with your family. Should put this on Facebook. They'll like it. I just actually remembered one last thing, and you told us about me yesterday. You actually had a homie who passed away.
So when I saw you, I was just like, yo, this guy looks so much like Franco. And I'm going to show you a picture of him. He passed away last year. He drowned. And, very young. He was 21 or 22, something like that. He's really young.
Really young.
So you guys be the judge. I mean, it's cool. Like, I feel like I was kind of talking to him in a way, kind of like a reincarnation. And it's kind of cool because also his nickname was Miko, and your name is Nico. Wow. I showed it to Ross. Ross was like, yeah, you guys do look alike, just without the facial hair.
Oh, well, thank you then.
Yeah. So here's loading.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi sucks in here.
It's all good.
Oh, we're still rolling. We're not even done.
We're not done yet.
This is still going.
I want you, if you can, briefly share your story on the other end too, how you got to this point, because you killed it. Like
how I got to this point? Oh, of course, yeah. So, it's crazy because after doing a shit ton of hashtags with Filipinos and whatnot, and me just finding more and more Filipinos, I remember interviewing this guy named Philip Wolf. He's a Filipino artist from Texas, and he just recently moved to Las Vegas to pursue his music career. And even before we got into the interview, he had told me, like, hey, whether you know it or not, you're really like the guy for Filipinos, and you might not know it, but a lot of like Filipino eyes are on you. And I looked at it and I was just like, wow. For the longest time, I necessarily did not have like a byline for the lunch table. I just wanted to keep on doing interviews and keep on sharing stories. And then it was after that interview I came to realize, like, wow, I can really put on for my culture, and I could really put on for my people, and I can keep on sharing the stories from people like yourself, people like Kiana, who we're going to have on the podcast too, and people like Philip as well. And in a sense, I've gained this responsibility, which I'm more than happy to keep on championing and keep on running with. And I'm just ready for Filipinos like ourselves and other Filipinos watching this podcast and being like, you know what? These guys can do it, and we can do it too. Exactly. And there's my mission, man.
Right there. All right, so this is the profile, like the side view.
Okay. Oh, my God.
So that's how he looked from the side. All right, let's get like a photo.
That's crazy.
Another photo right here.
Well, he has a nicer fade than me right now, for sure.
Let's find a photo where he's... it's loading right up.
And Nico's the biggest, the only Filipino on air as a talent at the biggest radio.
Oh, yeah, that too, man.
Right?
Check me out, Real 92.3, the only Filipino on there.
No, it's not for you. You worked your way up.
Yeah, and, okay, see, now I want to get into this. I think initially my parents wanted me to... Initially, I wanted to be a psych major because I just wanted to get to know people on, like, a very personal level. And then my mom had guided me to be, like, a newscaster, all that type of stuff. But then I never really saw myself being on the news.
Right.
And to this day, I don't think my parents have listened to me on the radio. Shout out to my parents. But I can tell that they are proud because they've just never seen this happen before. And when I have conversations with my younger cousins about, Kuya Nico, how do you like being in music, being on radio? It makes me happy knowing that I can actually give them like a different way that's not just a doctor or a lawyer. Not saying that they even have to go the route of like being a musician, but just the fact that like we're full representations of what it can look like if we just pursue our passions. That's not necessarily something our parents just want us to do.
Right. And
not necessarily only our parents, but no matter what, if somebody tells you can or can't do something, fuck all that. Right. Just do whatever you want to do, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you want to pursue, all your dreams. And it's important because at the end of the day, you're by yourself, you're with Jesus, and you got to make yourself happy, and you got to feed your soul that way. So
there you go.
Yeah.
One more photo that you just pulled up.
All right, here's another photo.
I love your story. Sorry, I had to make sure.
Damn.
Yeah, I see it.
You see it?
Damn.
It's like Alex and Nick's.
Yeah,
That's great. I wish I could have met him, man. Rest
he's
in
really
peace.
cool. Yeah.
Well, shout out Miko. You know, rest in peace. I feel like his legacy is living on through you,
And through
especially.
you, dude.
Appreciate that. This is Miko.
With DJ Head.
Right.
And Head's like, who the fuck is
Who's Miko? Well, I'm Nico Blitz. This is the lunch table, food for thought. Inigo Pascual, and we are out, everybody.
Miko?